Welcome to Redbeard Radio. I'm Brian Keith, and today we're talking about the most important topic, which is how to avoid shiny object syndrome. You might know it as the, I should buy that app, or, oh, this person talked about that book, and I should really go read that book, and, I should do this tactic over here. If you're an entrepreneur, you have fallen prey to shiny object syndrome a million times over. We all have. But we have here today an expert in helping entrepreneurs identify and overcome shiny object syndrome. Welcome back to the podcast, Jade Olivia.
Woo! Glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited because you, in all your various businesses, have worked with a whole bunch of entrepreneurs, and you've seen this theme of they have a mission, and then they get distracted from their mission, first by, I could do it this way. And maybe that's actually the right way to do it. But then they say, there's this other option. And suddenly there's 10 options. But instead of choosing one, they choose all 10. And then they add an 11th. Is that about right?
That's extremely accurate.
I can say this so specifically because if I think about my best self does the whole pursue one course until you're successful. And once you're done with an approach, put away the tools, and then, do the next thing. Just do things in order and be focused. But there's more apps that I know what to do with, and there's more things I need to do as an entrepreneur. Even with just the podcasting part of my business, there's more different approaches than I could use. So how do you help people, Jade? How do you help people focus?
Well, entrepreneurs are a very special breed of people. The way I diagnose shiny object syndrome, and so if you're listening, I want you to participate. Brian, you too. So the first question is, raise your hand if you're an entrepreneur.
My hand is raised.
Great. Then take 2 fingers and feel if you have a pulse.
Okay, doing it.
You've been diagnosed. It's official. I'm a pro at this.
Excellent.
So you've been diagnosed with shiny object syndrome.
Ah, crap.
And we've all been there. Yeah, yep, it's true. And it's funny because you just admitted it. And just because I like to focus on the customer journey doesn't mean I don't succumb to it as well. We've all been there because entrepreneurs are some of the most special, excitable, lofty, dreaming, world-changing people in the world. So because of that, we're easily excitable by new ideas and things all the time. And it is kind of hard to focus on the nitty-gritty right in front of you. As you know, I'm a Keep certified partner. Keep doesn't own, the customer journey mapping or, the lifecycle marketing concept, but it is something that they heavily promote among their partners to educate their own clients with. It's a great tool because while it's very foundational, it's business 101.
Mm-hmm.
And nor is it owned by Keep themselves. It's a great framework that you can apply to your business, whether it's an early business or a seasoned business or a booming business or a growing business, or doesn't matter your niche, your industry. It's something that you can use to take a deep breath and focus on what you should be focusing on versus what you want to be focusing on. Want to be is the key.
Whoa there. Let's pause and let's dive in on that, what you just said. It helps you focus on what you should be focusing on instead of what you want to be focusing on. Jade, why is there a difference? Shouldn't I be wise enough and suave enough to understand, to focus on the right things? Why is there this gap between should and want?
Right. So, shiny objects are shiny for a reason. Everything is cool, and especially in the digital marketing landscape, everything is awesome and it's constantly changing and there's so many options. Do you need a chat bot? Do you need a help desk? Do you need this? Do you need that? Do you need a podcast? What about this? What about that? The reason that we want to do all these things is because they're fun. And let's be honest here, we're fun. So we always want to be doing these things, but at the end of the day, there's only so many minutes in the day and there's only so much energy that you have. And so prioritizing that is the best way to scale yourself and stay focused so you actually achieve things instead of, going down this rat race where you're just constantly changing directions and never really ending up somewhere.
I have a metaphor that's a little bit gross, but excellent. Are you ready for it?
Oh, I can't wait.
Have you ever cleaned out a rat's nest? A literal rat's nest?
Negative.
Okay. Good for you. You're amazing. If you ever do, one of the things you'll likely notice is literal shiny objects, because rats love to collect shiny objects like confetti, or they'll shred anything aluminum or metallic looking, Christmas ornaments, and they'll go bring all those things into their nest. Now, they can't eat them. There is no functional purpose, but the rats just instinctually like to gather shiny things, which they then can't use. And if you ever clean out a rat's nest, you'll discover like, wow, these rats really like to collect shiny things for no purpose. What a painful, self-observing thing about how many apps am I paying subscriptions on that I'm not actually using to their full potential?
Well, that's a really great point because, just because there's a lot of cool things out there and you bought it and it didn't work for you doesn't mean like you made a horrible decision. And the thing that you bought probably wasn't a horrible thing, and it wasn't sold by horrible people with bad intentions. Well, more likely than not. But the thing is maybe you do need a chatbot, but do you need it right now? Is it the right thing that will help you bring in more revenue and that you can safely spread around and spend and grow and scale? So that's why the whole lifecycle marketing customer journey framework helps you make better data-driven decisions about what to get and why and where, because it's all cool. It's all shiny. You don't suck. These things don't suck. Your past decisions of buying shiny things wasn't stupid by any means. Shiny objects, they're not bad things. You're not a bad person. None of these things are bad. And if you know anything about me, you know that I'm an extraordinarily positive, perky person.
Uh-huh.
I see in my consulting business, I see entrepreneurs get frustrated, and that's when they hire somebody like me. And some consultants do a thing and they promise this and they do that and they fix one thing. Whereas I'm more of like hey, let's take a deep breath. Let me ask you some questions. Let's see what you do for each piece and how you bridge the gap between each piece. And that's where you can make good, sound decisions with your money and your time and your energy.
That all sounds good. I believe your diagnosis of shiny object syndrome, and I love the approach of asking you questions. For entrepreneurs who are listening in, where is the place to start with asking better questions that leads them to focusing on their customer journey as opposed to focusing on the confetti-like Christmas ornament shiny objects?
Well, you can either Google it or go to my website. I have a picture of it, but Keep has this really beautiful picture of the lifecycle marketing concept itself. And it's broken down into 3 main sections. The first is collecting leads. So it's before they buy from you. Then they convert. So when they're buying from you, and then creating fans after they buy from you. So these are the 3 main sections of the customer journey. And of each of those 3 sections, there's 3 smaller subsections. There's small stages.
Mm-hmm.
So when I sit down with an entrepreneur that's, flustered and wants to fix things that are breaking and get the right thing, I always ask them, what do you do for each of these 9 things? But then what do you do to get them to the next thing?
Mm. So we have both the, are you good at this thing? And then the, how good are you at getting them to or away from that?
Yes.
Onto the next thing.
Yeah. It's hard for me because I'm very chatty and excitable myself. So it's a very systematized question asking process. And I rarely get to the end because there's so many people. When you ask these questions, it pokes holes in what people are doing, and they have a lot of light bulb moments. And these light bulb moments is where you really can make good decisions.
I love the power of a good question. In my Redbeard Accelerator membership group, we go through the impact framework that takes people through how they've built out their message, platform, and tribe, and then how they get people to move from being inspired by their content to taking an initial action to making a long-term change in their lives. And like what you're saying with the customer journey, just by asking the questions, it suddenly exposes things. Like when I ask members, okay, so what are you better at? Inspiring people to think and feel differently, or getting people to take an individual action, or helping them make a long-term change in their lives. Mm-hmm. Usually people are pretty clear about, I'm strong on this and I'm weak on that. And then we know, okay, well, if you just fixed your weakest point, you'd be in a really different place from now.
But it takes those questions to really jog people. That's the other thing that's really important. So yeah, the lifecycle marketing framework is crucial, it's foundational, and it's a great diagnosing tool. But the other thing about shiny objects and all of this, chaos that is in an entrepreneur's life is the right thing at the right time. So, Brian, you and I are great friends and we're in the same professional circles. And I would venture to say that you and I are extremely different people that get along great, but we professionally serve different people with different purposes. And so,
oh my,
neither Brian nor I suck, but someone might hire Brian over me or hire me over Brian for a different thing, for a different purpose. So that's why it's so nice to start with these questions in this framework and say, what kind of person do I need right now to help me solve this exact need at this exact time?
I look at it as a different tools in the toolbox, that it's a flathead versus a Phillips head screwdriver. I really admire the work I've seen you do in community management for some people. And that is not a thing. I could do some of it, but there's no way that I could be as good consistently over a sustained period of time as you are. It just isn't, it's not going to happen. That's not my personality. And that's okay.
Likewise, you're the person I go to when I'm like, Brian, I got all these crazy ideas and I need someone to help me bop me on the head and push me a little bit. So we all serve different purposes. Here's a question for everyone listening. Consider someone who had a huge impact in your life, just like a big pivoting moment in your life. It could be meeting your spouse. It could be a mentor or a teacher you had when you were a kid that changed your life. Now, think about if you had met that person and that person said or did that thing for you at a different time, 5 years later or 5 years before. Your life would be wildly different. And it's not that you or this person saying or doing the wrong thing. It's just, if you were to meet your spouse 5 years earlier, your lives would have been wildly different and you likely wouldn't have ended up together. It's all about timing and having the right things at the right time. And that's what I was alluding to before when I was talking about, fancy things like chatbots and automation tools and all of these crazy things that are amazing. It's just, you got to do it at the right time for it to have the biggest impact on you.
Jade, how do people find out what is the next thing to do? You mentioned 9 different parts of the customer journey. Let's say someone's bought the idea that they really ought to be doing something in each of the 9 areas, but they're not sure which one to do next, and they're not sure which one to do now, given where they're at in their business, their personal life, etc. What is the process you take them through, and how can people start on that process?
That is an awesome question, because the first place I start with when I'm asking people what they're doing is how automated is it? I mean, probably I'm biased there being in the automation industry, but 9 steps is a lot to be engaging with at one time with a bunch of different customers all in different places. Maybe you're top heavy, you have a bunch of leads coming in, but you're not spending enough time on the end, or vice versa. So the first place I start with, okay, what are we doing? And then, we list out what everyone's doing for each of their phases and how they get them to the next. But then the question is, how can we improve this with automation? Because once you automate as much as possible, then you can take the things that you can't automate, and that's when you can really divvy your time, money, and energy.
I like it. I like to ask the question of people, what is the 12-month profitability of a particular project, and how much profit will this bring in the next 12 months? And then how easy is it to do? And then I use those 2 things to help people organize what ought they to do next. It's so important to just get things in the right order, because if you do as you're saying, is you do the right things, but you do it in the wrong order, you can totally suck your energy. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about an individual day. You think about a day, like right now, it's really hot here where I live. And so yesterday I was out at 10 a.m. in my garden working, and it was not hot yet. So that was a really good time to do some kinds of work. Do the same kind of work at the heat of the day, it's just not going to work well. So you can do the right things in the wrong order and you can fail. Yeah. How do people get a hold of you to go and talk with you more and start to hear some of these questions and make sure they're doing the right things in the right order?
Great question. I'm working on another brand right now, but as it stands, you can go to jadeoliviaconsulting.com, and I have a pretty picture of all of those phases. So even if you just wanted to ask yourself some questions, you can absolutely do that. There's also the ability to book some time with me on that site, where I, at no charge, walk you through these questions. And here's where it all ties in. After we ask you those questions, and again, it's at no charge to anybody, more than likely you're going to be fired up to work with someone to help you fix your problems, right? Because you're like, great, I know exactly what I need to fix. Now what? So to be super honest, my personal consulting plate is pretty full. And so what I've been working on, and this is the new brand I was referring to, I've been working on a brand where I would like to get entrepreneurs all over the world fired up to understand these foundational concepts so that they can really take their time and take deep breaths and focus on what they need to work on so that they can grow and live out their entrepreneurial visions more quickly instead of being lost and frustrated. So what I'd like to do is get people excited about this and then ultimately pair them up with the perfect provider because, Brian, you know this, our professional community is insanely amazing. So many smart people with so many amazing specialties in so many different mediums. Some people have communities, and that's what you need. Some people are implementers, and that's what you need. Some people are one-on-one coaches, and that's what you might need. It's all about what do you need at the right time, at the right place. And then if I can help tap you into some of the smartest people I know that can really just crank this out for you so that you can do you, that's the dream.
So to get specific there, what you're saying, Jade, is that someone might talk with you to understand which of those 9 areas of the customer journey they should be focused on. And they might come out of that conversation with an understanding that really automating their process of asking for referrals is the highest profit thing they can do. And they might also come out of that conversation knowing 1 or 2 people they could talk to help them get that built out. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
I love it. One of the things, Jade, that I love about you is your sense of scale, that you like to do things that can scale. And when I think about what entrepreneurs who want to grow their businesses, what they have to do, one of the critical things that's easy to fail, and I see it failing all the time, is properly scaling attention. Mm-hmm. And by talking to you as sort of a curator of all the stuff you could do. Here's a dozen things. Of these dozen things, 11 of them are shiny objects. One of them is what you should be focused on, but you don't know which one. Mm-hmm. And as a person who can help solve that problem, that's wonderful. Where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram. It's jadeolivia.co. jadeolivia.co. That's the brand that I'm building out right now. So Instagram is live and I'll be posting some awesome free content there as well. But it's all about these people. I would not have grown my consulting business, Brian, if I didn't know you and some of the most amazing people in our community. So if I can do anything to educate and uplift other entrepreneurs and then connect them with the perfect service provider and the perfect energy and community at the right time, I will have lived my mission at that point.
I love it. I would liken what you do, the analysis part of what you do, to sort of like a home inspector or a doctor, where you don't necessarily know what you don't know. And it's wise to sometimes go to a professional who can look at the entire picture and say, here's the most important things. If anyone here has ever had a home inspection, you wind up with a list. And there's some things that are, okay, this really matters. You need to do this soon. And there's some things like, this isn't ideal. You might want to fix it eventually. And so I love that people can go get that from you and help diagnose what's going on. That's jadeoliviaconsulting.com to go and get on Jade's calendar. Jade, thanks for being on the show.
Love it. Thank you.